thyself is to love thyself, is to examine, observe, and respect thyself. It's an ongoing process, never to be explained in a brief synopsis. It's a preoccupation with reflection and revelation that can only be achieved through discipline and determination.
Hello and welcome to the Encouraging Word Show. I am your host, Jamila Freelain. I thank you for tuning in, and I hope you tune in each and every Thursday to get some tidbits and get some wisdom on college and career prep and learn some tips on how to reduce your costs. Now, for those of you that are tuning in for the very first time, here's my little spiel. I just kind of give an introduction. For those of you, again, that aren't familiar, my show is actually based on a book that I wrote a while back called Free Money for College. And Free Money for College has packed with more than 50 tips, resources, and programs for college and career preparation. So my whole mission is to help not just students and not just parents, but both, to give you some insight and provide ideas, tips, strategies, and understand some of the different opportunities that you can take advantage of that can help with early career exploration, that can help to prepare you not just for getting into college, but graduating from college. Somebody say amen. And then also graduating with little to no debt. All of those things are very important. So many people, more people than ever before it seems, are going to college. And guess what? More people than ever before too are going into massive amount of debts. Not sure if you know this, but next to mortgage loan debt, student loan debt is is the very next one, is actually second. So again, student loan debt is actually second only to mortgage loan debt. It trumps medical debt, it trumps credit card debt, all of those things that we're told to look out for. But guess what? Student loan debt is one of the things that you have to be mindful of. Now, student loans in and of themselves are not bad, but when you misuse or when you're not informed or not prepared for that process, then you can end up in a situation where you're paying off your student loans for the next 30 years. And guess what? Who wants that, right? So if that's not something that's a goal of yours, and I don't know anybody whose goal that is, be mindful and just be aware that there are different strategies and resources out there. So for today's show, what I'll do is highlight how to use the book for those of you that have had questions in the past, because that's something that I continuously get questions on. In terms of how the book is set up in really 4 different areas or aspects to really kind of give you ideas on college preparation. So I'll talk about some tips in relation to that. I'm going to talk about the college application process and how that kind of works and how you can kind of be strategic and intentional with that. So I'll give you a tip from kind of that particular aspect. And then post-college or college life itself, talking about different things that you can do there to kind of help you and build up that muscle of persistence and determination and that sort of thing, so that you not only start but finish. And then last would be the post-college phase and talking about some tips. So each one of those things are things that I'm going to touch on today, and I'll give you one example or one strategy that will help you or that will assist you along the way. And then in the second half of our show today, I'm going to be joined by Dr. Treva Brown, who is actually a physical scientist. She works at NASA, of all places. So how awesome is that? Make sure you stay tuned. Now, let me jump right in. The word of today for me is going to be technology. And when we talk about technology and when we talk about preparation, there's so many different ways in which you can prepare now that we have technology. Of course, in terms of looking for scholarships, in terms of researching colleges, in terms of researching majors, there's been no better time than this present day to look for colleges and to research different majors and get ideas of maybe what the job forecast is and what the outlook is for certain industries. Now is the time, and you should begin preparing sooner rather than later. Oftentimes I have students and parents ask me, for that matter, how soon should I start? And I tell them all the time, I start with students as early as 6th grade. They're usually blown away because a lot of people tend to wait till junior or senior year or wait till high school. Guess what? Not that it's too late by then, but it is kind of late by then. So you want to be mindful of that. And that actually goes to the first segment or the first tip that I want to provide you, talking about college preparation or career preparation. By 6th grade, you really want to start beginning to look at different things that you're gifted at, things that you know that you're blessed with, things that you know that you maybe do better than anybody else. So for example, even as a 6th grader, you might think, well, you know, I don't know, I'm still young. Heck, I don't know what I want to do. Well, you may not know what you want to do in terms of your final destination, but think for a second about some things you like. Think about the things that you enjoy doing. Do you enjoy maybe helping out in the kitchen? Do you enjoy maybe helping people, let's say at church? Is there a television show that's on that you really, really like, and maybe you see a cool job, maybe for law enforcement, or maybe you see, maybe you watch a lot of medical shows because you think it's really cool to be in that type of hospital environment. What you're doing is beginning to scratch the surface and to identify the gifts that you may naturally be inclined, or the areas that you may be gifted towards that could actually lead to your college major. So kind of be mindful of that and start to kind of take inventory of that. And obviously, if you're a parent watching the show, you can kind of do the same thing. Kind of begin to notice what it is that your son or your daughter is maybe most useful with and most helpful in, and what some of their gifts are. You can have, as my grandmother used to say, you can have 100 kids and all of them will be very different. So begin to notice which gifts each child kind of brings to the table, and then begin to notice or cultivate or try to think of different resources maybe even that are in the community that could cultivate that gift. So that's first and foremost. Talking about college and career preparation, start as early as possible. And again, 6th grade is the time that I really strongly recommend. Also, another tip in relation to that, in addition to beginning with early college and career preparation and exploration, is the savings piece. Now, one of the more popular savings plans and vehicles that I should say that are out there now is the 529 plans. And I don't stand here as a financial planner. If you have a financial advisor, I would recommend strongly that you seek that particular person's advice on the 529 plans, and from state to state they can vary, but there are different tax advantages that come along with that. You want to think of a 529 college savings plan in the same regard that you think of, let's say, a 401k for saving for retirement. So there are certain advantages, and obviously if a 529 plan doesn't necessarily float your boat, you know, there's always different ways or different investments that you might do as a parent to save up. It might be within in areas such as real estate, it might be stocks, it might be commodities, whatever floats your boat. But be mindful that starting when the kids are young is the best way to treat that particular investment vehicle, because time will be on your side. And of course, with college and career planning, if you're not aware, time is of the essence, and you want to give yourself as much time and to lay that groundwork and that foundation and begin the grooming process. So with college and career preparation, that's that particular piece of advice. Another piece of advice, if we're talking about the college application process. Now, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with a video that was on, I want to say, maybe Fox News. I'm not sure of which network it was, but there was a recent example of a young man who was African American, and he applied to all Ivy League schools, and the young man was just obviously a very brilliant and outstanding young man, and he applied to multiple schools, and I forget off the top of my head now, I want to say it was some really astronomical number like 20 or something. Not that 20 is an astronomical number, but that is quite a few schools. So it was definitely in the double digits. And what some of the contributors on that particular network, whichever network it was, had mentioned some things or said some things that seemed a bit condescending or demeaning in reference to that young man, saying that he was, you know, taking up space and taking up somebody's slot, and he shouldn't have applied for as many schools. And I would speak to the contrary. Now, for the number of schools that he applied for, and I don't remember again off the top of my head what the number was, it was an excessive number, but you know what? More power to him if that's the number he applied to. But here's the thing, whenever I work, even doing one-on-ones mentoring sessions with students and parents, of course, I recommend students do multiple applications, because here's the deal, and I've said this once before, well, I've said this several times before, but when you're applying to school, you want to remember that you have to be strategic and intentional for yourself. So, for example, you want to have maybe that school that could be a long shot. You want to have that school that might be just kind of, you've got a guaranteed slot. And then you maybe want to have, that safe zone school too, that school that it may not have been your top choice, but it's a school that you would be happy at as well. Because here's the piece of that most people just don't get until it's too late. Every school is funded extremely differently, whether it's a private school, whether it's a public school, it might be a for-profit school, it might be a non-for-profit school. And since schools are all funded differently, you may go to a school that is, let's say, $50,000 a year. But because they have maybe a strong fellowship program or alumni program, that's what I meant to say, but they may have fellowships through that alumni foundation, or they may have a number of different resources that really contribute to each student, and as a result, your tuition at that seemingly very, very expensive school could really run you the same amount as it would at this particular school that seemed like the safe school, where the tuition is maybe a lot less, but because they don't have as much funding to supplement the cost of that school, you actually maybe have to pay more out of pocket for this school over here that's cheaper than you would for the school that's 3 times as much, because again, the funding can be a little different. So you want to make sure that you cover all bases. If that school that you really are interested in is maybe 3 times more expensive, don't rule it out. And don't not apply, but be mindful that they may have resources that you're not available about. That with that aid and assistance, you're able to, again, offset the cost and still make it a reality to go to that particular school. So multiple schools, applying to multiple colleges is good and to your advantage. Just be strategic and intentional about it, because again, at the end of the day, college applications do cost a lot of money, and you don't necessarily want to put so much time and effort towards the application for the school that you end up missing the boat on maybe applying for different things like scholarships and things like that you can take advantage of during that very maybe narrow window, especially if it's your senior year. And by the way, in terms of applications, you want to always consider applying in the fall as opposed to the spring, because again, you want to set yourself up for success. So early decisions, early acceptance is always a positive place to be in, and puts you in the driver's seat, so to speak. And that's very important when you look at the cost of college and what the opportunity of going to college can yield as well. So another thing, in terms of college life, I have a lot of students and parents that I speak to that don't necessarily believe in having a student to work during college. I don't necessarily agree with that, and every situation, though, is very different. For some students, it may not necessarily be a good idea. It just kind of depends on the student, but by and large, I would encourage strongly that a student works during school. Now, hear me and hear me clearly. If you're at a 4-year school and you are taking 19 credit hours and you are in chemical engineering or something like architecture, which might be a 5 or 6 year program, then it may not be best for you. If you have a learning disability and it takes a little longer for you to grasp some of the concepts or something along those lines, then working during college may not be the best move for you. But by and large, if you are, again, a typical student, working maybe between 10 to 15 hours a week during college is really a good setup. And the reason that I say that is because it builds that muscle of responsibility before you actually go into the workplace and begin doing something like an apprenticeship or an internship. You can do something on campus, whether it's a work study, that sort of thing, and it helps you to balance and become more accustomed to adult life. A lot of us, if we're coming straight from our parents' homes, everything has been done for us. Even if we worked maybe during our high school years. And what happens as a consequence or as a result of that is we don't really necessarily know how to maybe dress for the workplace. We don't know what's appropriate or inappropriate. So then when an opportunity for an apprenticeship or an internship comes up, because that is such a new phenomenon maybe to some of us that haven't had that particular experience because you had never worked prior to that, you can end up sabotaging that opportunity, which is a golden opportunity when you're in the midst of an employer who hires you in something that's related to your major or something like that. So prior to maybe an apprenticeship or an internship, which takes place maybe your junior or senior year, or in some cases, in many cases, your sophomore year, set yourself up by developing that habit of good work ethic and learning how to balance and juggle your time by understanding how to do well with not just your schooling, but also a job during college. And again, 10 to 15 hours is what I would recommend. Once you start to get 15 to 20 hours or 30 hours, you're beginning then to encroach upon the time you should spend studying. And for anybody that knows or is familiar with the book, one of the things that I say, in order to really have that 4.0 GPA that you want to make your college experience a 40-hour work week. So you divide it up. You have, depending on how many credit hours each one of your classes are, and you have a certain amount of time allotted for studying. So in addition to your 40-hour work week, you're going to have maybe 10 or 15 hours to do something like maybe work, I don't know, as a night clerk or something like that in one of the dorms, or maybe work for food service in the cafeteria, that sort of thing. But doing something that helps you to have another balance, have a little change in your pocket, because you're special kind of broke when you're in college. But when you do those things, again, you develop that muscle of determination and stay more engaged. And as a result, those students that typically are more busy and more engaged with school, doing activities and working and that sort of things, are the ones that typically have a higher success rate in terms of graduating as well. Plus, it gives you a good opportunity to network and potentially meet some people that can yield an internship maybe opportunity for you. Last thing, in terms of post-college, the post-college phase that we touch on in the book. And again, there's many different things. There's actually 50 short chapters in the book, but in terms of talking about the post-college phase, some things that you can do as a person who maybe has started college and not been able to finish, or maybe is looking at going back to college but trying to expedite that process, is to look at different post-college programs. And post-college programs usually go by different names. There's no universal names, but typically if you look at colleges that have what they call adult degree programs, or also they're known as degree completion programs. Those are typically programs that are set up at four-year schools where basically maybe you only have one semester left, or a certain amount of credit hours you've already completed. And in the school that you're going to that has an adult degree program or a completion program, they typically will maximize. They're usually much more liberal about accepting all of those credits in, or a vast majority of those credits in, so that you can get to your four-year degree even sooner. Oftentimes, too, a lot of adult degree programs are accelerated. So instead of being on a 16-week semester, their classes might be 8 weeks or 10 weeks, that sort of thing. It just depends from school to school, which also helps to shorten that time from the time that you're able to start that program to finishing up and then completing your degree. Oftentimes, they have online programs as well, or hybrid classes, which are part online and part on site, and sometimes they have weekend classes as well. So looking at all of those different options, as well as maybe evening programs if you're a person who has to be on site, they usually go under the umbrella terms of adult degree programs, or also again degree completion programs. And all of those things can really help you to stay focused, and again to maximize maybe credit hours you would have earned previously, and get closer to the finish line of completing your degree. Now again, in the next half of the show today, we have a tremendous young lady that's going to join us by phone. I hope you'll stay tuned. Thanks for watching the Encouraging Word Show. Hey, Hey, thanks for watching the Encouraging Word Show. And in the first segment, what you'll know is that I talked about some different tips with the four phases and breakdown of college. And of course, we talked about preparing for college, so that college preparation phase. We talked about the application phase. We talked about during college and some things you could do, as well as the post-college phase. And as I mentioned in the first segment as well, we have a very exciting guest. I'm so excited that she's able to join us. This is a young lady by the name of Dr. Treva Brown, and she's a physical scientist with NASA in Mississippi. And thank you for joining us, Treva. How are you tonight?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
No problem, no problem. So I'm so excited that you're on today. And what I want to do is kind of jump right in. Now, as I mentioned, ladies and gentlemen, she is actually a physical scientist for NASA. But let's back up for a second. Can you tell us briefly about your experience in high school and maybe some classes that you excelled in, and go from there?
Okay, so in high school, I'll be honest, I didn't know at all what I wanted to do. And it took actually a physics teacher of mine. She told me about STEM programs, so that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Right.
So she told me to look into doing that in college. So I went to Louisiana State University for my bachelor's degree.
Okay.
And
great
I
school.
kind of just saw chemistry, and I don't know, in high school chemistry, I was just intrigued by being able to, you know, make new things and, you know, do things like take copper out of a penny and just leave the foil behind. So if you thought penny copper was real, it's not. So I'm sorry if that's anybody's bubble. But just stuff like that just kind of spurred my interest.
Okay. So then it came from a love of science that you developed and that you knew you had in high school. So you liked what did you say? You took physics, right? And then you also loved chemistry. Yes. Okay. So from there, you kind of knew there was an affinity that you had for the sciences.
Exactly.
Okay. So now when you started at Louisiana State University, did you start then as a chemistry major, or did you even declare a major when you first started?
I actually did start as a chemistry major, and like I tell everyone, I swear, you know, God just had his hand on all of that because I didn't know what I was doing when I went to college. So I started out, I declared chemistry as my major, and just everything just fell into place from there. So I started with my major in chemistry and actually started doing research as a second semester freshman in chemistry and as well. And so that just solidified my entire program for me throughout graduation.
Okay. And you sent us a picture with you. Is this outside one of your the buildings for your chemistry lab? Or I guess that was probably undergrad that you're speaking of. Did you continue on with your master's and your doctorate at LSU as well, or?
No, I didn't. My master's and my doctorate was at the University of New Orleans, so that's actually in front of the University of New Orleans chemistry building.
Gotcha. Okay. How exciting is that? Now, the next photo that I'm showing is a picture with you and your family. Tell me about that day. Tell me about that experience.
Oh my gosh, that day, I'm going to try not to cry about that day, rethinking about it, but it was just the most joyous occasion for myself and my parents, because my parents were just overjoyed that, you know, I even went on to get my Ph.D., let alone just matriculate through the sciences as I did. My dad was excited. He, you know, he sacrificed a lot to be able to get me to where I am, as well as my mom, too. Sure. And with the help of both of them, I got to where I am. And so it was just a joyous day all around. And, you know, my family is my backbone. Like, you know, if my family isn't involved, I don't want to do it. So for me, that day sharing, you know, that proud moment with them was just everything. So that's why we're just all smiles and, you know, just the joy exudes from that picture alone.
Yeah, I would agree. You can see, you know, just you radiate the word joy, I would say, in that photo. And so is your family. They're like beaming with pride. Now, did your mom and dad have the opportunity to go to college as well? So did they set that precedent for you? Or tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so actually, no, they didn't. So my dad, he only has a high school education. My mom, she did go to trade school. So she went to like a 2-year business college, so where she got, I guess, like a little training degree to do what she does now. My dad, he was a city bus driver. He's retired now. Okay. So the only thing that they really instilled in me was to get a good education. Once I got to college, made sure to send me through college. And once I got my bachelor's, they were excited. They were happy. But then when I told them I wanted my PhD, they were like, what? They were like, okay, we support you, So yeah, they were like, if it's what you want to do, go ahead. So like I said, for me and my parents, like just me getting my PhD was just never even thought of, or something that wasn't really in the picture. So that's why I say, I was like, this guy just had his hand all in that to, kind of, like, look, this is what I have planned for Treva, and, I'll just be there for her journey. So yeah, so my parents, they were, I call them just, like, from the year that they were born, they did endure a lot of hardships that were going on during that time being in the South. Right. So I just feel like their constant encouragement is what helped me to get to where I am. But as far as them kind of, setting the way, or kind of like being like, well, look, we went to college and we did this, we did that, and you got to do it too, it definitely wasn't any of that at all.
Right. And I have to say, I'm sure they're over the moon excited for you, because I was proud of you, and I only had really met you over the phone and that sort of thing. I was like, look at this girl, do your thing, girl. That's amazing. That's incredible. Now I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about your exciting job with NASA. Oh my gosh. Tell us a little bit about that. And is that like a dream job? Is that a dream come true? Tell us, how you landed that and how that came into being.
You know what, girl? Look, I'm just have to get real.
Okay,
and,
please do.
If I step on any toes, it's, face, because I always talk about my face. I'm gonna apologize in advance, but I swear I can't explain it any other way, but God. That's all I can say. I happened to be in my office one day when I was in graduate school, writing my dissertation, and my graduate advisor, he happened to email me, and he asked me, was I busy? And I told him no. So he said, okay, I have a job, proposition for you. And so I'm like, okay, great. I'm getting ready to graduate, so, any job that comes my way,
Right, you're all ears, right.
So, right. And so he came and talked to me, and he said, it's a scientist, she's retired now, Dr. Little. She, her and her colleague were looking for a microscopist, and that was what my research dealt with, microscopy. And they were looking for a microscopist, and he was like, just so happened he happened to know one, which was, me.
Which was you, right.
So he talked to me a little bit about the job, and he talked to me about how to go about preparing for an interview, because he said that they were going to send somebody out to talk to me and a few other people, I guess, I don't know if they were in the area or what have you, but they
Probably
were sending somebody from the site to come and talk to us.
Right.
So he told me about how to basically, I tailored a 5-minute presentation of, my work, what I was doing for my dissertation, and then basically using the work that I did in graduate school to work for what they were trying to do at NASA. Okay. So I put that together, and not once was I nervous at all. Like most people are like, oh my gosh, my first job is NASA, I'm so nervous. But I wasn't nervous at all. So, so after, he kind of coached me through the process of getting my curriculum fitted together. The guy came, Dr. Lee, who is my colleague now, he came down and he talked to me, and basically he was just like, at the end of it, he was like, he told my advisor, he said, do I have her CV? Because I need to bring her to a site interview.
Okay,
so
and let's back up for a second.
2 or 3 months later.
Okay, you said your CV. So for those that are watching at home, what is your CV? Your curriculum vitae?
Is a curriculum vitae or vitae, however you say tomatoes.
Okay.
So what that is basically a combination of everything that you have done academically and work-wise. Okay. So for me, I had a little bit of, you put your education background on there, of course. Right. You put any awards that you may have received, as well as, a little bit about your dissertation topic, etc. So So the difference between a resume and a CV is much longer. It's almost like your biography,
right?
That you're trying to sell to others. Whereas with your resume, you want to keep it straight, simple, and to the point.
Right.
So that's like the main difference between the two.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay, I'm sorry, continue, because somebody may not know that, and as you're going through, I like to just kind of point some of those things out. So thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
Go ahead. So you provided
them. So after he set me up for the site interview, I went to the site interview, and I was like a kid in a candy store, like looking around the site. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I'm here. My heart was just jumping, like this can't be real, this pinch me. And my parents were trying to keep me grounded the entire time, calling me like, Teresa, calm down. I know you're excited, but you gotta get your foot in the door, etc. So to be honest, like, the on-site interview wasn't really an interview. It was more so, to me, it felt like, okay, this is what we can offer you. We just want you to come. Because they showed me around the laboratories. They showed me around a little bit of the site, as far as where I would be working. And once everything was said and done, they were like, okay, thank you. We'll be in touch. So about 2 weeks went by, and I didn't hear anything. My mom, she said, you need to email them. I'm like, no, Mom, I'm not going to, bother them. She's like, email them. And I'm glad I did.
I'm glad you did as well.
So like they always say, you always follow up.
Yes.
And yes, you should always follow up, because I believe it was with my follow-ups that's the reason why I got where I am today. Absolutely. Because I swear it took from July to October for them to even say, okay, Dr. Brown, you got the job.
Wow.
So, right. So that entire process, like I said, it just, it took, mentors, in the form of my graduate advisor and my parents to kind of be like, look, this is what you do in the real world. This is what, this is how we're going to help you land this job. But as far as the process itself, in terms of, like filling out an application or anything, I honestly can't speak on that because I didn't do that. Like, I was pretty much, I guess, kind of
somebody was looking
selected,
out, right?
if you will, and things went from there. So a lot of times people do ask me, how did I get to where I am? And it wasn't the conventional route. So I can't really speak on that aspect, but I say as long as you, excel in what you're doing and continue to trust in God that, everything is going to fall in place, like I strongly believe that it happens for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now we're going to shift gears for a second here, but I do want to remind you, of course, favor was upon you, but in order for you to even have some favor upon you, you have to remember, Treva, that you prepared yourself. So let me share with the listening audience, what was your GPA when you were in school? Because it wasn't random. It wasn't random that this occurrence happened to you.
My GPA in school, so in my undergrad, I will be honest, it was only a 2.7.
And that was your GPA in undergrad.
Don't let that define you, because so many students I've met matriculating through my graduate studies, they're so focused on their GPA. And I'm like, it's more to you as a person than just your GPA, and I'm a living witness of that.
Right. So in your doctoral program,
my GPA wasn't the best.
Right.
Yeah, my GPA wasn't the best, but I put myself out there in terms of doing research, doing community service, doing this, doing that. So, I gave them the whole Treva instead of just the academic Treva.
Right.
So and then when I got to graduate school, honestly, GPA doesn't matter, but in graduate school, my GPA was like a 3.5. So.
So again, you had to prepare yourself. Again, in graduate school, you had to show and prove, right? Your GPA had to be up there. For undergrad, it can, kind of waver a little bit. But again, once you get to grad school, it kind of has to be on point. And that's the point that I was making. You have to work up to something. So really quickly, I want to share with them, because I know we just showed a picture of you in the lab, which I think is incredible. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing shortly, because we're gonna run out of time otherwise. But if you could quickly tell me what you're doing with some young ladies to inspire them and let them know about the STEM industry.
So one of the things I like to do, I like to call myself a fit and fabulous Ph.D. So showing that you can be a scientist and still be, cute and dainty and fabulous as well. So you do have a picture, and I'm not sure if you showed it yet, that I'm sitting there with some young ladies.
I do.
And that was when I was teaching them how to make jewelry, because I also own a jewelry business on the side. So one of the things I want to exude to young ladies is that you can do whatever you set your mind to. Be it science, technology, engineering, mathematics, we are far and few. And I definitely see that now that I'm in the working world, because I am the only female scientist on my end of the spectrum.
Right.
So, I say go for it. Your dreams go as far as the galaxies. And I mean, we're far and few. And so we need to get that number up. So one of the things I want to do, and I started doing, was going around giving talks, doing mini classes on, basically being an entrepreneur, but also being able to define you and find you. So being in whatever aspect it is. For me, it was science. For someone else, it might be, mathematics.
Something else, right.
So so I think in a nutshell, to keep it on the short side, that's what I'm doing to try to encourage young females, especially, to basically just follow their dreams.
Okay. Now we're going to actually wrap up because we're about out of time, but in 30 seconds or less, can you tell me what your word of the day is and what that means to you?
My word of the day is faith. And for me, that means to follow your faith, whatever that may be. Follow whatever it is that you believe in. My faith got me through, and whatever it is that you believe in can get you through as well.
Okay, very well said. I want to say thank you again, Dr. Brown, for being on. She's an award-winning scientist. You're going to hear more dynamic things from her. And again, she's so well-rounded that she not only mentors and she's a scientist, but she's also an entrepreneur. It doesn't get any better than that. I thank you guys for watching today, and I hope you guys were able to glean some insight from the first and the second segment. Stay tuned for next week's show, and I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you, Dr. Brown, and thank you for watching.
Thank you for having me.